All right, we're right into it. Welcome back to HCS Weekly. I'm your host, ShyWay. Good to be back, guys. I know it's a Thursday. It's not a Tuesday. What happened, guys? I was sick Tuesday. I'm not 100% today, but the show's just got to go on. We got lots of stuff to talk about. And to start things off, there are a couple interesting news pieces in the world of Halo, a couple things I want to talk about. And one thing I will say is that the news side of the show is going to receive an upgrade very soon. So stay tuned to that. We will be covering more comprehensive news on HCS Weekly. I mean, we're the weekly Halo show. We got to cover more news on the channel. But let's start with this awesome new addition to, Halo experiences is this new Halo Outpost Discovery. And Tony, he's not here today. I got Nick filling in instead. Nick, feel free to play that trailer for us. Hopefully the audio went through on your end, guys. I didn't quite hear it, but it does look pretty damn awesome regardless. And I'm sure you've already seen it somewhere online as well. It's been posted all throughout Twitter. Really cool experience, really great way to, kind of bring Halo to the forefront of our minds. Of course, we all know that Halo recently hasn't been quite as popular as we'd like it to be. And it was once a massive franchise and there's a whole universe associated. So it's nice to see an event like this or a showcase, where people can go around and start to learn more about Halo in a broader capacity as well. And there are a couple things you might want to look forward to. I'm going to read off some of these experiences. Nick, you can throw me over the website just on the page here. And I'll talk through these. We got the Hall of History, the Ring Experience, Covenant Escape, Combat Deck. This one's actually my favorite one. It's experience the rush of playing Halo in quote-unquote real life with this Halo-themed laser tag combat deck. So laser tag is pretty dope. That was a big part of my childhood. So nice to see that in like a Halo theme. That'd be pretty awesome. We've got Training Grounds VR experiences as well. Pelican Training, UNSC Kiosk, Target Range, Mega Constructs, Post Exchange, and Marketplace. So really great way to experience Halo in a different kind of capacity and get more people thinking about Halo. The only unfortunate thing about it is I'm currently living in Toronto and it doesn't come to Toronto. So if you guys are in Canada, unfortunately, you're out of luck. It looks like it's only in Orlando, Philadelphia, Chicago, Houston, Anaheim for now. So if you're in any of those locations, stay tuned. You guys got some awesome experiences coming up. If not, hopefully they hit us eventually. And one other thing as far as news goes, and we will be touching on this more a little bit later, but I'm sure you guys know about the recent roster switch that's happened with Tox and with GMS. Tox has bumped Eco off of the roster, replaced him with Royal 2, and then in the process, Eco has been pushed on to GMS, replacing Zurka, and Zurka has been left without a team. And I'm going to bring on somebody that we can talk to about this whole issue, somebody who's very knowledgeable in competitive Halo, both as a competitor, as a coach, and now the director of operations for Denial. I'd like to welcome Hoaxer, Emanuel Lovejoy, to the stream. How's it going,
Hey, what's going on, man? It's going. It's definitely going.
It's going. I'm sure you're busy. You were saying you do have the benefit of working from home now, right? So is everything a little bit easier in that regard, or how's that been for you?
It does make it easier. But even so, it's all about adapting and so it makes it easy in the sense of accessibility to being able to work, but also I run into the issues of working too much to the point where I got to focus on me after a certain point.
Oh, man.
So that's kind of like an obstacle to get around.
Right. That's awesome. You got to balance that work-life balance right there. But yeah, of course, you're doing something in the industry that, in eSports is something that you love. So that's always great. But yeah, being overworked can be way too much. But your experience with Halo goes all the way back. Like, I think it was 2009 that you started. We'll talk about that as well. But just tell me a bit about that. How did you first get into Halo? This is something I love to do with everybody. And I know that your brother is involved in that as well. So I wonder how that kind of came into play. So tell me about that.
Whew, yeah, I mean, it started from the very first Halo. Combat evolved,
Of
and
course.
uh, didn't have original Xbox starting out, so we went over to a friend's house, and that's when we got introduced to the monks. The
The monks.
the notorious, the pop, the most iconic hum of all time, and just like, oh my God, this theme song, and this game, it's just awesome. The campaign. So, that's when we first got introduced to it, and then we got introduced to the multiplayer, and so we were, obviously noobs, and we were playing on Wizard with all rockets on the map. That's how we
Yes.
started. And then closer to the end of Halo CE, we got invited to a local LAN tournament. Well, of course, LAN. Uh, and it was a huge event. I'd never been a part of it. It was something like that, and ironically, it was at a
Right.
church, and it was like 30
Wow.
teams and 4v4, and it was an awesome, awesome event. And we were thinking we were going to come in and make waves, and we ended up getting absolutely
Oh
dominated.
man.
Barely getting any kind of kills, getting spawn killed, all of the things that uh, would entail you getting reality checked in Halo 1. So
Right.
that was our initiation into the competitive aspect of Halo. And pretty much after that point, I told my brother, I was like, look, we can't have this again, not locally, not ever. So that's when we really, like, it just unlocked our potential of competition for Halo.
So you and your brother sound really close, which is awesome too. Is this something that you guys kind of experienced like together? You found out about Halo together and decided to kind of jump in. And this is has there been like a rivalry ongoing between the two of you? Tell me a bit about that. Like getting into Halo. I'm sure you wanted to beat each other,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's all of those things that you asked. The rivalry, like do, we were very close, and so when it had anything to do with Halo, we were doing it together. Um, uh, so we were able to feed off of each other. And at the time, we were in high school, and he was just about to graduate. So he actually went to his first MLG event before I did. So this was Halo 2.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I didn't go, obviously, until 2009 to my first MLG event, which was Halo 3. So, he got that first, that raw experience before I did. And, I got to sit back and watch. And, he flourished in his own right, became
Right.
semi-pro and pro FFA. So, but yeah, I mean, we've been through it together in all capacities, to be honest.
Uh-huh. And just one thing going back to that first experience with Halo is I love how everybody that I ask about their first experience with Halo, they always have like a slightly different thing that they would do, like playing all rockets on like Wizard or like just exploring the campaign like in a Warthog, just like driving around on a massive map. And you realize that it's like that's the beauty of Halo is like there's so many ways to experience it. Like the first time playing Halo could be racing, like it could be like Halo Race or like Griffball or something crazy. So
Right.
I love that there's just so much diversity and like getting into it, and then you start to realize, oh damn, it's like it's really deep competitive game, and
Oh
that
yeah.
becomes your focus. But yeah, so you were saying that 2009 was the first time you got into a tournament, and then what was that tournament, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, that was Meadowlands 2009, Halo 3, and it was a complete, absolute culture shock to me. I was
Right.
the classic noob, scared, you know, whatever, and nervous, all of those things. And but obviously want to do the best. And one of my good friends is one of my teammates, Banana Cognac.
Okay.
Maybe some of the OGs will know him, but I'm friends with him till this day. I actually need to give him a call. I'll probably give him a call after this interview, actually. But
Nice.
I had some good friends with me that I teamed with, and we ended up getting knocked out, losers bracket round 4, I believe it was. But it was a great experience, and man, it's one I'll never forget, and I'm happy that I actually, that's when I first started, because Halo 3 is definitely near and dear to my heart for sure.
Yeah, and something that's gone down in history is just the ultimate pinnacle of Halo as well. If you look at the popularity and the tournaments that were happening at that time, it's crazy how it's just
Hmm.
shaped esports today. So hopefully we can get some of that back with Halo one day in the future. But that's the thing is even when you're losing, I think that's the beauty of competitive Halo 2. Is you said your first tournament in Halo 1, you guys got slapped, but like that just made you want to play more. It made you want to compete harder. And then there you go. You go over to Meadowlands in 2009. And then one of the coolest things that I discovered as far as your competitive background goes is your time in FFA as an FFA competitor. One of the biggest things, I mean, we just saw the pre-roll as well, is that Big Flex 4 FFA championship. That was a cool championship. And I know it came up on the pre-roll, but I want to share a little bit more footage here. Nick, if you got the clip, you can roll that clip just right now.
Oh, the torture.
Yeah, make sure the audio is playing. I don't know if both of us are here, but just the clip audio.
But he's up by 10 kills right now. Looks as if Hoaxer is going to be able to walk away with this victory. Oh man, but now finally it's time for Hoaxer to get the spotlight.
Look at this man.
As he is going to take the victory for the pick.
Let's go,
Flex
baby.
4 free-for-all.
Hoaxer, the very familiar face, finally clutched the victory and came out on top to earn a spot in the Big Flex 4 Elite.
Hi, J-Rab here with Hoaxer, Big Flex 4's free-for-all winner. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. I mean, for lack of a better word.
Adrenaline still going?
But yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so we didn't actually have the whole interview, but it's a quick interview.
Awesome.
But we're currently chatting about all this stuff anyway, so I figured we'd jump back. But that looked so awesome, just as an overall event, and then the whole experience of like playing in different regions and winning and going to the final one. So tell me a bit about like that event and how it worked and how you kind of got to that final matchup. Give me a bit of an overview and all.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, like man, it's a blur on how I got there and how I ended up on, main stage. But, all I remember was leading up to that moment, I kept thinking about all of the other, Big Flex 4 finals that I made it to that same year. And was just like, my gosh, man, this is my last shot.
Exactly. How did it start? Like Big Flex 4, if you can kind of just describe like a brief layout of like how it went down.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so like the structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how it works is, you basically line up and you get to what they call the open stations in the Big Flex 4 station, and basically you have to qualify for the win. You have to qualify for the winners table. So you essentially have to get top 2, and then you move on to the winners table, and that's where they start factoring in your points in your wins. So if you get top 2, you stay at the winners table. And after you get a certain amount of wins, you get placed on a leaderboard, and at the end of a certain point on Saturday, if you make top 16 on the leaderboards, you make it to the semifinals of the Big Flex FFAs. So it's pretty intense because you're constantly checking in, like, because you're playing for the 4v4s in the meantime, but when you can, you're trying to fit in your FFA matches. And so you're taking a look at the leaderboard. It's like, man, who's catching up with me? I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. And then you check back an hour later, and you're like, oh no, I need to get some more wins in. I need to start playing. So, but then you have to deal with that long line of people that are also, trying to, vie for the leaderboards. So, that's basically how it works. And you clinch your position after a certain point, and then you actually play on the actual, the settings and whatnot to qualify for finals.
The final event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you made it. And then that last match was so intense. I mean, it's even like the title at MLG is like the greatest Halo match of all time or whatever. But like the end of that game was crazy. It was you like neck and neck with like Flame. What was his tag?
Flamehead,
and then Straight Stick. And I'm not sure if Flamehead's still around, but then Campy slipped in at the end. Tell me a bit about that. It's nice to see Campy, man. It's been so long.
Yeah, man. Tony Campy, man. I love the guy, one of my favorite teammates of all time, but also a rival in the same sense. The reason why he's my rival is because he was always there in the FFAs with me in the finals. Every time, it was just one of those things. We would just look at each other. We're sitting next to each other. It's just like, here we go. Again. So, I already know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how, low he is on the leaderboard, in the kill counts. He's going to come back eventually. That's literally my mindset every FFA that he's in with me. It's like, he's going to come back. It's not a surprise. It's just a surprise in how he does it. It's honestly ridiculous. So
Yeah, man's picking up
yeah,
like last second triple kills, double kills, like squeezes in there.
classic, campy,
Yeah.
classic. So, but
I mean,
it's a
probably,
pleasure.
yeah, yeah. You probably don't know, but what happened? Do you have any idea what happened to Campy? Can we get secret intel, or I don't know how close you are with Campy?
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea what he's doing these days. I just know that he's alive. Um, and I don't think he's playing at all.
Right.
From what I heard from at DreamHack Atlanta, I was talking to Best Man, and
Mm,
he had told me that he had sent him a message on Facebook, I think it was, and Tony told him, hey, I'm alive, I'm doing well, and then, you know, that conversation ended really quick. But that was enough for me to be happy that he's still alive. I just don't know what he's doing. He
right.
could be a secret agent for all we know.
It's like literally,
So
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's odd. I don't know. No
Yeah,
one knows.
yeah. I mean, hopefully he does come back. It's a little unfortunate, but yeah, it's really difficult to
Mhm.
figure out what happened to him. He's the man who just completely disappeared. Because I've been trying to look up on the internet and trying to, figure out like in Reddit forums and stuff if anybody's seen him or they know anything, and nobody really has any
Right,
information. Just hopefully that he's well and then he comes back at some point when he's ready. But
right.
yeah, I mean, just a cool experience overall. With that whole FFA championship, do you have like a favorite moment in your competitive history? Like as a competitor, would you say the big Flex 4 is up there, or is there a different one?
That one's definitely up there just because of the pressure and
Right.
overcoming, the disappointment that I had experienced over and over again of making it to the finals, the events before, and it was just like, man, when is it going to be me? When is it going to be my turn, to
Right.
earn, the number one spot in one of these FFAs. So yeah, that was a big moment. Also, it's just funny. Like FFA has always been near and dear to my heart. So it's one of my biggest, accomplishments. And making it to the global
Right.
championships in Halo 4 was an extremely big one for me for a lot of reasons. Um, so that one was at PAX Prime. I forget the year. I think it was 2012 or 13. 13
Right.
probably.
Right.
Yeah, something
Uh-huh.
like that. And so that one, getting there and experiencing that was a big thing for me because there was a mix of all of the legends, all of the original pro players, and the up
Nice.
and coming, and the future up and coming pro players, all under one house, playing for themselves, not playing for anyone else, and
Yeah.
being able to experience that same pressure with them for it was 500 $1,000, I
Wow.
believe it was. And that was a pressure that I don't think any of us had ever felt. You had guys like Snakebite, Ogre 2, Strong Side, T Squared, all of these
Yeah.
guys, and we're all stressing the hell out trying to make it, just trying to
That's so
advance
intense.
to the next round. Yeah, it was
Right.
just awesome. And then so when we finally got, we made it to the main stage, we didn't see Halo like that before, in a theatrical stage like that. And so when
Right.
we finally we lined up just like how football players do in the terminal, they're just lining up. So we're like shoulder to shoulder, and then we just file through and we see the stage. We're like, oh my god! So it's like to my left, it's Tuger,
Pressure.
it's Strong Side on the other end. It's just like we're all looking at this. We're like, oh my god, this is Halo. Like we're all playing on this. So that was an awesome experience for me, and I was lucky, definitely lucky to be a part of something like that.
Wow, that is awesome to hear. And I mean, like Halo 4, that's one thing I think that they really did right is just some of those events, like the production value on some of those
Mm,
events and how that
mhm,
really kind of set things up for Halo 5, the money that they were putting into Halo esports. It's unfortunate that Halo 4 didn't, fare quite as well in the esports side
for
of
sure,
things as far as what people
for
thought
sure.
of it, but they made some great strides on the esports events. It's great that you could be there with all of those amazing players. And FFA, what is it about FFA? It's just you fight for yourself, I guess. It must be like so
Yeah,
intense. On top of the fact that like Halo is such a team-based game and you're constantly like trying to mesh with different people and you're swapping through rosters and trying to find the right fit. But then FFA is just it's all about you and improving and being the best that you can be, right?
yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. Like for me, it's a kind of pressure that I don't get in 4v4. that is more rewarding in a sense, because I know that it's all me. And in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily up to me either. It's all, it's about adapting to the
Right.
situation. It's the
Right.
the unfortunate events that occur in FFAs, and being able to triumph over it. That to me is something that is extremely fulfilling. And it's one of those things, you just get in it. You don't have to depend on anybody else. You just go and you just make a name
Yeah.
for yourself. And that's always
Yeah.
been the the core way of making a name for yourself, as far as I'm concerned, and what I believe any player can do.
Yeah, like classically in Halo, especially, like if you wanted to showcase that you were a great player, you started an FFA and built up, your rep, and people would recognize you, and then you would end up
100%.
going into teams. Yeah, and in Halo 5, unfortunately, I don't feel like it quite transitioned that way. I think nowadays it's like you kind of want to have like a live stream or something, like some way to broadcast your talent in a different way. But
Correct.
yeah, FFA didn't quite take that forefront. Hopefully, with future games, they can, we can do something like that as well, like again. But yeah, FFA
Right.
was always that way to showcase that you are this individually skilled powerhouse and you deserve to be on a big roster.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna. Yeah, I was just gonna say, it was like, yeah, definitely. I mean, the streams weren't necessarily a big thing as far as accessibility for the average gamer. So, these FFAs and going to live events was a huge way to break out as an individual. And guys like Pistola, who started out in FFA, my brother, those are all examples that I think about. And even myself, I just kind of use myself as an example of that. And that's why I'm a huge advocate for free-for-alls even to this day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, man, the timing on these things is super weird. Like the lag time between what I say and then being able to hear each other. So I know, yeah, it can be very difficult to manage sometimes. Don't worry. If I ever interrupt you, I'll always, taper back a bit.
All good.
So following the FFA championship, you started to shift your focus from playing over to coaching. And when did this first happen? How did you make this transition? I know your brother is a coach as well. Did that influence things at all?
Yeah, that definitely influenced it. Again, goes back to the whole rivalry. Anything you could do, I could do better. But it's all it's all coming from a good place.
Yeah.
The first season of Halo 5's, the competitive season for Halo 5 was extremely stressful, very stressful in the way that it was structured, because there wasn't necessarily any real penalties for dropping a player from week to week in the online qualifiers, because it was all points based. So it was stressful in the sense of, you can't go to sleep before the roster lock, the morning of, the online tournament. So, we had to deal with those type of elements from week to week, and there was so much riding on it, for trying to qualify for regionals. So, after that season where, my team, we made it to regionals and then we didn't advance to worlds, I kind of needed to take a step back from competing and see, what other things that I have to offer as far as my skill set, to where I could be more of an influence to more people. And given that my brother was already coaching Denial eSports at the time with Huke, Devonator, Contra, and I believe it's Booby Doo. Yeah, Booby Doo. And I saw that. Yeah, it was excellent squad, and what he was able to do for that team was an excellent example of what a coach can bring to a team. And I had no doubts that that was something that I could be, from a coaching standpoint. So that's kind of where that started. Because I knew I still had the skill to compete, but at the same time, again, I had to think about it from a bigger, on a bigger perspective. And so that's where the coaching role came in for me.
Right. And the skill ended up being very important for you as well, right? Because being skilled at Halo is very important in helping you recognize certain things or understanding what other competitor players might be going through in those, really intense matches. Like as a coach, what would you say was kind of your role as a coach? Like what was, I guess, your main, I don't know if I want to say like mantra, or like what were the main things you wanted to accomplish?
Right. So it kind of varied from team to team depending on the personalities on the team and the skill sets. But overall, one of my biggest things was not overcoaching. I didn't want to
Mm.
overcoach. I wanted to survey the situation first before I started having a plan of attack for coaching.
Interesting.
Understanding the personalities, their characteristics, the way they handled stress and adversity, and troubleshooting when things went wrong or when things went right, still troubleshooting. So those were my first, that was my first mindsets coming into it. But, as things went on, one of my biggest things was, being analytical as far as the little things, how you approach a corner, like checking your corner, not getting averaged in those certain scenarios,
Right.
because those could be the difference makers of snowball effects occurring and
Right.
whatnot. And any player can always improve on those situations. So, that was one thing. And then also, two, was focusing specifically on keeping players alive. That's always something that a coach can bring to the table when it comes to, just coaching. Really focusing on how a player can stay alive in a very specific scenario.
Right.
I'm very anal when it comes to that, and and one player that I could give an example of that was Miquin, high
Right.
high caliber, super skillful player, loves to put a lot of damage down. And so with that character trait, there comes a lot of attention that he brings to himself in game. So with a lot of attention brings a lot of damage taken. With a lot of damage comes a lot of deaths, perhaps. So, those are opportunities to focus on a player that's like that and keeping them alive. Because if you're able to keep that player alive, then that's scary. So
Right.
that's
See
just
that.
one, just one of the things that I think about from team to team.
I like that. So you're giving your team this added awareness, like you talked about checking your corners and understanding how to stay alive and whatnot can be so important, and recognizing, I guess, the specific roles that your team players fill, and how you can push the most out of those roles, right? So Miquin being
Correct.
super aggro, how can he work together with his teammates, or how can he play in a certain way that allows him to stay alive? And I think one of the things Miquin talked about was how APG kind of helped him accomplish some of those things as well. They had like a good kind of duo thing going on as well. And I mean, so you were coaching Renegades, was that final team you were coaching in Halo 5. That was actually like pretty much a god squad. Like that was an amazing team. It was Miquin,
Yes.
Neptune, APG, and Penguin. And you guys beat Splice in the final event. I think you placed third to end it.
Yes.
So what was it like coaching that team? Unfortunately, but you guys, yeah, unbelievable talent. It'd be nice to see where they'd be now if they were able to keep, going. But
right. So yeah, like the overall experience with that team was awesome. Well, I love all those guys.
Yeah.
Huge talents in every single one of them. I hated to see Austin, take a step back, but I get it. I get what he's he's doing. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there wasn't a doubt in my mind at any point in time where we couldn't win an event. It was always first, always first, always first. And when it came to the DreamHack Atlanta finals, when we played against Splice, there were some things that I wanted to prepare for map specific wise if we ever played against a team, in those latter parts of the tournament. And one of my specific memories from that event that I'm very proud of the guys for was coming into the event. We went over a starting strat for Empire.
Okay.
And
I like this.
Empire Strongholds was a game type that wasn't a game type that was popping up enough in the tournament. But I talked to the guys. I was like, hey, I have this start. It's very season 1 meta, but I want us to do this strat against any team that we go against on Empire. And in my mind, I figured it was going to be Tox at the time. I didn't think it was going to be Splice, but they ended up getting it with us. So I told him, I was like, hey guys, no one caps home off the start, and I feel like that's something that we should do. So at first they were like, but I was like, okay guys, just hear me out. We send 2 outside and we stay home. We try and stay alive as long as possible, and we don't try and get OS. And we kind of do the long game on the OS side. And then one of us goes to play to burn Invis, camo. Right. And in the meantime, we're already capping home, so it's less stress on us to worry about the other team getting points off the bat, because we have choices. Can we dive pit after, or can we just cap their home if they're focusing all of their numbers for pit? So after a while, as I was explaining it, the grand scheme of it is you play to burn camo, and you long play OS to offset those times for the next sequence of power-ups. So in that grand scheme, that's what we wanted to play for, and they were down for it. And we did that exact same thing against Splice on Empire Strongholds, and it worked absolutely perfectly. It was beautiful, and we ended up winning the game. It was 100-7, I think it was. It was just an absolute domination. So I was proud of the guys for that. That was one of my proudest moments as far as like a coaching perspective.
Yeah, that has to be amazing to see, to like plan something and then have it executed and go like flawlessly in the end. So that's pretty amazing. But did you say, so you left home, or did you cap home base? Because you made it sound like you guys were all going to leave the home base and not cap it. Or did you leave?
We had one stay to cap the home base. So we sent 2 outside, and then 1 went to burn camo. Yeah, which was Penguin. That was his assignment. Austin, because Austin Micklin, he was usually leaving the home base and pushing Turbine from pit, and he was always getting cut off from the enemy sneaky every time. So I was like, hey man, the timing wise on this is, once you finish capping home, you do your same route to Turbine, and next thing you know, you have the rest of the Splice team in front of you, or any team, because they're already shooting through sneaky, and thus we're able to long play for OS, because you're obviously baiting everyone that's trying to go for OS at that point. So
that's actually what makes it smart, is specifically that you're long playing OS to give Mickwin time to cap the base and offset the time, so that when he comes in, it's the perfect timing to flank the other players who are trying to fight this offset, the long
100%. 100%. Meanwhile, the two guys that are playing, safely on, our bend side of the map, they're doing their best to stay alive and just extending, playing, milking. And all this time, Camo's burned, OS is still up. And so from a coach mindset, I'm getting ready for the guys mentally to be like, hey, get ready for Camo this next time. It's, it's a huge gap. So then there creates the whole script, because like in the NFL, it's like their first few plays of the match or the game are scripted, so to speak. This is that meta. So normally I wouldn't say this on a show or a stream or anything like that, but since competitive Halo 5 is over, so to speak, so I can kind of let things out. But that was kind of like a grand scream script play for me.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's actually so cool to even just kind of hear from your brain onto this show here, is just like that type of starting strat and how you can offset the entire game based off of that. Like having such a wide gap between camo and OS completely changes the flow of the match, and you're ready for the camo the moment that it comes up, because you burned it. And so like there's a really cool awareness that comes into play there. And I would like to see that type of mindset applied into starting strats on all the maps, and then I'll make it into a YouTube video. But I already have a long 18-minute video on Empire Stronghold starting strats. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's literally about that. Like it's
okay.
Oh, okay. I'll show it to you after. It's actually really cool. I talk about how you split your resources and how you can. Anyway, so you can see what you think. Anyway, guys, we're getting a little off track here. I'm glad that we
I love it.
A little moment though, but so let's talk about today, because now present day Halo 5 is done, unfortunately, but we've got plenty more Halo, which is still exciting. And now you're the director of operations at Denial eSports, and congrats on the new role. There's a lot going on with Denial recently. There's like a change in leadership a bit. I think you've acquired new top teams in Halo and Gears. Like you're doing amazing in Halo and in Gears. I think you're the second place team right now. So tell me a bit about your role, how that came to be, and how things are going at Denial.
Yeah, so from an individual perspective, I have had the privilege of being under multiple organizations and being able to see how they work internally, and the leadership within those organizations and the opportunities for improvement within all of those organizations. And I kind of thought about it from myself. I was like, what would I ever do if I was in a position like this, in a higher position, so to speak, in an organization? It's just like, man, I value this. I could tell I value this, or having these certain relationship dynamics with players and with management and what I would want as core values for my organization. And so, those things were already turning in my head,
Mhm.
way before this happened. And so, eventually I saw, I was given the opportunity to step in for a new org. I didn't know what was going to happen at first. Like it could have been us starting from complete scratch with a new organization.
Mhm.
And, I thought about it from all the angles, and Denial Esports came up. And at first I was like, yeah, I'm going to pass on this. But
Yeah.
after the conversations kept going, I
Right.
was like, okay, I see the plan of attack here. This makes sense. And there were a few things that I wanted done, or else I wouldn't. I was going to choose not to,
Gonna sit
partake
your
in it.
demands.
And
Uh-huh.
yeah, correct. And so, all of those things were being met. Some of the things, as far as like paying old debts, for players, and I didn't want anyone, as far as like upper management involved from the previous Denial Esports, and I just those were the things I needed to happen.
Right.
And we wanted to do right by the players, and that's always something that we've wanted to keep core uh, as far as values. And so those things, those values were being met, and director of operations came. That role became something that swooped on my desk, and I was like, I think I might be ready for this. It's going to be a learning experience, but I
Yeah.
think that I'm ready for this. And so that opportunity got, put out there for me, and I took it. And essentially, how it works is, I'm involved with all all of the things within Denial Esports, all the way from player acquisitions, team acquisitions, apparel, making sure that structure is set up correctly and as best as we can possibly make it, and
Right.
sponsorships, all of those things. So that's where we're at, and it's a 24/7 thing.
You got a lot to weigh in on. How many games is Denial currently involved with right now? There's a bunch, right?
Oh man, we're in PUBG, Halo, Call of Duty, Gears of War.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna be at Fortnite soon. Uh,
Can't avoid that.
Rainbow Six, and what am I leaving out? I think I'm leaving. Oh, Counter Strike. Counter Strike's another one. So yeah, that's all of those games. So it's a lot.
Okay. I'm seeing you freeze up a little bit on the connection there. Hopefully that holds stable. I'm out here praying. But yeah, it looks
Hopefully,
like
yeah, I
you're
see it too.
yeah, it's getting a little better. But okay. So yeah, tons to manage, of course, and that's keeping you super busy. But I'm loving this Denial squad and team. Like on top of the unbelievable talent that you have on the roster, I've also been seeing a ton of Blackbeard. I mean, I had the pleasure of talking to him at St. Louis as well. But I love the attitude this guy brings to Halo. Guys, check out this recent tweet as well. Nick, you can throw up this tweet. It's this little video clip I want to talk about for Blackbeard's mindset that he has. It's pretty amazing.
That I developed over time. For all you guys listening out there, if I want to give you a little bit of tip, I call it a 7-day mental positivity diet. And for 7 days, if you can just go and not say anything negative, only talk positivity, that is going to help adjust you and get you stronger for what's to come. And it's not that you're not going to have negative thoughts. It's not that you're going to want to say something negative, but just stop before you speak, put something positive in there. You say, you know what? I am going to overcome this. You know what? My car is not going to get repoed. You know what? I'm going to buy a new house. I will step up. I'm going to pay my bills. I'm going to be number one. And you start talking like that, man. You say, if it is to be, it's up to me. And you just fucking do it. That's what we got to do.
I'm ready to put the helmet back on after that.
Yeah,
right there,
baby.
man.
Let's go.
Forget, no.
That was awesome. That was so well said.
I love it.
The thing is, that applies to everything in life. That's literally the Halo grind right there. Like every time that you're getting your butt kicked in Halo and you want to be negative about something, and you feel that thought coming and you just switch it to something positive and try to hold that. Like he said, 7 days. Just try to commit yourself to that 7-day mental positivity. I think that is so smart that he gave a timeline to really just kind of see it through and see if that changes you in some way. How's it been working with somebody like Blackbeard and the team at Denial?
Yeah, Patrick, Blackbeard, he's been an absolute unit for us, and we're we're very fortunate to have ran into him, early on, and we have him on board with us, and it's just been awesome. The guy is he's a unit. He's extremely wonderful as a person, awesome to be around, and he's contagious. His attitude is contagious. And things like that, as far as the the 7-day positivity challenge like that. So from a coaching perspective, see me, I come from a coaching background, but that doesn't change the fact that we're all students. We're all students of the game, no matter what the game is. Whether it's in a video game or life, we're just all students. And so for someone like Patrick to come along and expose me or anyone to that type of mentality, that is a completely different consciousness to anyone that hasn't been exposed to that. And it's just, that is a way to unlock anyone's potential. So, getting exposed to that, it's just like, wow, man, like I've never looked at anything like that before. And there's new possibilities, and that gets injected into your vision. And when that happens, that's a recipe for great things, honestly. So, he's been amazing.
Yeah. And Nick, by the way, I see your questions coming in on the Discord here. Guys, remember, you can ask questions for Hoaxer at the end of the show. Keep asking questions, guys. Super, I'd love to get some of your, creative questions in and see what Hoaxer thinks about these things. So anything you want to talk about his amazing hair as well at the Big Flex 4 FFA, or joke questions, serious questions as well would be preferred, but a lot that I want to hear from you guys. So keep that. And yes, so like you were saying about Blackbeard and mindset, exposing players to that mindset. I think that's one of the biggest things that you said that I think is so right, especially when you're working with teams on this denial roster, and like the Halo team is just, that's such a great motivator to just expose people to so much positivity and changing that mindset. So Absolutely. I think that's so great for competitive play, and it's holistic. It applies to your entire life. Like you said, we're students of the game, man. The game could be life. It could be video games, anything you want it to be. So
no egos, man. No egos. No egos.
Yeah. Word, dude. So next up on the Halo eSports schedule is the Invitational in Austin, and Denial will, of course, be there. Are you going to make it by any chance? I know you're super busy.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I want to be there. I want to be everywhere. And unfortunately, I'm just one person. So, unfortunately, there are about 3 different events that we have teams going to that same weekend. So, wow. There's the HCS Invitational in Austin, Texas, but then, 3 hours away, there is the CWL Fort Worth event for Call of Duty that we're going to have, our Pro League team at. And all the way in Qingkong, China, that's the actual city, there's the Counter-Strike event. So I might even be in China. So, we haven't locked it down yet, but it's looking like I might be in China. Not sure.
I mean, if you had to choose, China's a pretty cool change of scenery. Like, it would be nice to go to Austin.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
You're telling me, man. Anyway, last year was the first out of the country, technically, location that I'd been to, which was London, for that HCS event. And before that, I've been to Puerto Rico a few times, but to me, that doesn't really count. So yeah, I mean, the thought of even going to China is like, whoa, like what is life? Yeah. So, it's a very, very surreal time right now, but I'm excited, man. I'm super excited.
Damn, I mean, you have good reason to be. And I wanted to use that to kind of segue us in here, because one player who unfortunately will not be competing in Austin is Zurka. And I wanted to bring this topic back up to you and see what you thought about this. You guys, of course, know that recently Royal 2 came back to talks, which makes sense. Royal 2 has always been a part of that roster, bumping off Eco, and then Eco came onto GMS, bumping off Zurka. So Zurka, who had put in all of that time and energy, had earned his spot at the Invitational, can no longer compete now because he's been bumped off the team for Eco. That's pretty unfortunate. What do you think about this situation?
So I have multiple thoughts, perspectives on the situation. Right. So I'm gonna talk about on the structure side of it. I think that's very unfortunate that someone that's earned, their invitational spot, at the event. I think that that's super unfortunate, and it's unfortunate that rules aren't in place to accommodate something like
Yeah.
that. Because a very similar thing is, it's going on in the Call of Duty world where, players that have made it into the pro league, still they could be switched out for another player through technicalities and whatnot. So it's unfortunate that those things are there. So that's one perspective. Now my second perspective is from the player slash team dynamic. That was a very logical thing to do, in my opinion. So you factor in Gabriel, you factor in Fantasy, and then you factor in Goofy. These three players have been playing with each other for an extremely long time, and Zurka has kind of been thrown in that recipe at some point. So from a core standpoint, it just made sense that he was kind of on the chopping block. Unfortunately, that's just me looking at it from a logical standpoint. It just made sense. And obviously you have Royal 2 coming in. Somebody's got to go. That's just the way it is. So there's that whole domino effect. It's all logical to me. So at that point, Bradley, APG, he stays, and Eco obviously is going to go to the next best thing, which is it's either going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be status quo or GMS. GMS made sense, and that's what's happening here. So if I'm Zurka, obviously I'm going to be emotionally compromised and feel some type of way about it, which is understandable. You worked hard for it. You put all this time into Halo 3. You put a ton of time into it. So it's I get it, man. It sucks. It really does. But it is what it is, and Eco's in that spot and he's not, and I think that it's just super unfortunate that it's not top 8, from UGC St. Louis that make it to the Invitational. That I think that's one of the biggest things. So that's my thoughts in a nutshell.
Rules do need to be in place in some way. It's unfortunate there was no sort of like roster lock or something that can limit this from happening. Like from a business standpoint, it makes complete sense. Like Royal 2 coming in, Eco, like he has so much experience on Splice as a dominant player. Like he's built up that recognition to the point where it makes sense that he would be a great asset on GMS. So that's the main thing going against Zurka. And the only thing that I can think of from Zurka's perspective, which is kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel here, is apparently this is Zurka's first official Halo event, and he got top 6 and into the Invitational. So amazing work. I mean, he deserved the spot. He earned it, but it's his first event, and he's very new to the scene. So technically he could see that as just this is an opportunity for him to keep grinding and have an amazing career in Halo. Because if your first event, you do this well, then just keep that grind up, man. You're going to be right back here in a year's time. Like you got to have that mindset, I guess, and try to apply it that way. Because from the business side of things, it's unfortunate. It makes sense. I wish that there were rules in place that could limit this from happening. And that, like, I don't know, is he still going? I'm not sure. This is where there's a gap in my knowledge here, but maybe he's still invited to go, but he can't. Like, I'm not really sure how that's going.
I'm not too sure what's going on.
Yeah, all you can really do is, I guess, kind of take the L and know that this is your first event. And you got a ways to go in your career in Halo, and you're going to up this in a year's time, man. Like, just, keep on that
absolutely.
grind.
I would say, I would say with Zurka, man, I would tell him to stay hungry. Like this is your first event.
Exactly.
You got a great placement, but you got to keep going. You got to keep proving things, not necessarily to everyone else, but you got to prove more to yourself. That you're here to stay, if this is what you really want. So, and that's I love Gabriel. That's one of my favorite people in the community. Since I've teamed with him, and but I also know that Gabriel, he's a shot caller. He's one of those team captain type of personalities. So, when you team with a Gabriel, you have to understand that there are certain elements that you may have to deal with. And one of them is you may not have all the control as far as with team endeavors. And so all you can do is just play the best you can possibly play. And, if you play the best that you possibly can, then, that's all you can really ask for at the end of the day. So, going forward, I just tell, you Zurka, it's, just stay hungry, man. The consistency will show, and, the work ethic, you'll not be denied.
Yeah.
All I can say.
Yeah. And Gabriel, I mean, I had him on the show last time, and he does give me that vibe where he's kind of like a shark. Like, he will do whatever it takes to get first place. So, watch out. Keep up the good
Right.
gameplay, guys. 'Cause, yeah, exactly. He won't. If he sees an opportunity, he's going to snatch it. So,
Oh yeah.
So before
Sure.
we jump into our chat questions, we got a couple questions. After this, I just wanted to pick your brain on what you think about Halo because I know that, outside of the competitive life, you're still on that Halo grind here and there. I was looking at my friends list the other day, and I actually saw Hoaxer playing some Halo 5 Guardians just like literally yesterday. So nice to see that you're still playing some Halo. How do you feel about Halo 5 nowadays and the switch over to Halo 3 as the main competitive title? Are you kind of playing both of them? What do you feel about these titles right now?
Yeah, so how I feel about Halo 5 in general, I feel like just to talk about that game really quick, I loved
Yeah.
I love Halo 5. It's a great game. It's unfortunate that it couldn't receive the love and care that it needed to sustain itself in a competitive perspective, as far as like, patching, fixing the glitches and, melees that don't register ghost melees and all of those things. If it had those things and, maybe one or two competitive maps that could stick, it's a great game. I mean, it's at its core, it's a great game. And, I enjoyed playing the game. I play the game solo queue. I was playing it consistently solo queue. And even with that, I still had fun, with the game. And obviously, I might be an outlier with the mindset that I have, with having to go through all that stuff. But, I love, I loved Halo 5 for what it is. And, going back to Halo 3, I'm biased to Halo 3. I love Halo 3. I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm better at Halo 3 than I ever was right now.
Nice.
So there's a part of me that, wants to compete, but, there's, got to move on. But, it's an exciting time. I think that, when it comes to the grander scheme of things, I think that it behooves anyone to still have that Halo 5 mentality as far as like competition and understanding of how to play, competitively.
Okay. So, so then between the two titles, as you love them both, where would you want things to go? Like, because of course, one of the biggest things, like as far as the arguments that we're having, is advanced movement abilities versus the classic style. Like, where do you think things should go with Infinite based off of all the discussions and experience that you have with the game?
Yeah. You might not like the answer I'm going to give you, but or anyone,
okay with it.
People might not like what I have to say, but honestly, I don't know. I will just keep it real with you. Honestly, I do not know.
It's tough.
Just because, I see Halo 3, it's a classic movement style, but I don't know if that's the direction that, the new Halo should go in. All of the roads lead to it being a new movement, a new something to just to quote unquote keep up with the times, and then hopefully at some point it's balanced. It needs whatever it is, it has to be balanced. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't know, and it's frustrating for me because I don't envy the guys over at the guys and gals over there at 343, to tackle this thing. But man, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle because Halo has been through the ringers on all ends, with the competitive players, the dev side, and it's just whew, man. I think other devs are looking at 343 and it's just like, man, like it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah. I think now more than ever, there are good points on the side of advanced movement nowadays, and there are great points on the side of classic as well, of course, because we know the Halo 3 formula works. So I think it's just probably hybridizing the two in a way that feels modern, but retains the elements of Halo that we want to see from Halo, right? So trying to find a way to to innovate and I guess in some way taper it back. If like, yeah, because you don't want to go too far from the formula that people recognize. And I think the classic art style is a kind of hint to that they're trying to make it
Sure.
visually like the moment that you look at the game, you know it's Halo. So we'll see what they do as far as the competitive mechanics. And yeah, that's I think difficult at this
Right.
point. Yeah, they've gone
Right.
so
Yeah.
far
And
and they built a community with it. So where do they find that hybrid, that place where they
yeah,
please everyone?
and you know, I look at things like you know, you talk about the classic art style.
Right.
And then you look at the most recent announcement that Halo's made with Halo Outpost. Obviously that doesn't have anything to do with, well, you do play games at the Halo Outpost,
Sure,
but it's like
yeah.
you look at that and from my perspective, I'm like, okay, this is something very different than what Halo's done in the past. This is an opportunity for fans of all ages, all demographics to be included on. So,
Right.
you know, putting something like this in early on, I see it as a way of the one step to the grand scheme of maybe their marketing or their
Right.
their way of bringing people in to, you know, the next game, and for them
Yeah.
to develop some sort of connection to the game and interest. So it's a hybrid. I mean, it from what you said, you know,
Would
quite
make sense.
correctly. I feel like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to be a hybrid in some way,
We'll
shape,
see.
or form. It seems like it's gonna be.
We'll see what they do. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that they're doing a lot of initiatives to expand the whole universe, the franchise of Halo. There's so much more than just the competitive scene, and kind of bringing that to the forefront of people's minds. Just remembering Halo, what it is as a as an overall franchise, I think is really important.
Right.
So hopefully that works out well from their marketing side of things, and we can see an amazing Halo. I think this is like now more than ever is the time to put Halo back on the map. So really excited, guys, to see what they do with that. And as far as the end of the show here, we just got a couple questions from the chat. Remember, guys, you can ask Hoaxer any questions if you guys happen to have any questions in the chat. I've got a couple here. The first one is your top 5 Halo pros. Do you have top 5 Halo pros?
Oh man,
Is that a tough one?
let's see here. So in Halo 3, it was Walshy. Walshy's definitely one of them.
Top trash
Dave
talker?
Walsh. I think it was because of his ability of playing objective, because that's something as far as my playstyle I value a lot of objective. So
Right.
you know, I love seeing him, you know, on pit flag, pit CTF, you know, pulling a flag when nobody's dead in the other team and successfully, you know, capping it. Like those type of things are, you know, awesome to me. I hold a lot of value with that, and you know, I try and
Right.
implement that in my own game. How can you cap a flag without killing anybody, or you know,
Right.
on the initial pull? So like, you know, that's awesome to me, and you know, Walshy's definitely one. Woo, man, that's tough.
An all-around
Number
efficiency.
2.
That's what you're going for.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ola's number 2. I'd have to put Justin number 2.
wait, is it number one's like the top of all? Because you're saying, I guess, Halo 3 specifically. So
Well, I guess in no
Just
particular
reference
order.
to
It's
the
just
game.
I guess it's
Okay,
just, you know,
okay.
just to
Just
fill in
5 players.
slots, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, Pistola. Man, number 3. I guess you know, I put my brother, because you know
Hey.
without him I wouldn't have been, you know, I don't know where I'd be. I don't even know if I'd be in esports, you know, without him. So you know, I definitely got to
too lucky.
put, you know, Alumni. Got to put my Alumni in the mix. You know, as you know, top 5 pros. I guess, you know, I got 2 more spots, so woo, I got to put Bonfire from Exit Wounds up there.
Okay.
I
Wow.
enjoyed, you know, watching him in Halo 2.
Not going for the
And
big guns.
yeah, I mean, yeah, man, it's my personal
Yeah,
preference
I
and
like
my personal experiences, you know, with these guys. And Bonfire, you know, I got the pleasure of, you know, playing with him and watching him compete, you know, with my brother. And you know,
Right.
he had one of the nastiest no scopes in Halo 3 I've ever seen. It was at any point of the map, he just was taking damage, and he would just be able to get a headshot first shot every time, and it was just the strangest thing to me. So I guess the last spot, man, that's tough. God, because I'm naming all the classics, and
Going down in history,
I've
you
been
can't take it back.
yeah,
Yeah.
tough, man. I guess I'd have to put. Man, that's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe I have to tweet it out later. I have to tweet it out later, man. That's tough. I gotta put some
Alright.
thought into that one.
Yeah, no worries. We're putting
So,
you on the
I'll give you
spot
4
here.
for
This is
now.
top 5 Halo pros. Yeah, we got 4 out of the way, but I can't even answer that question. I've been asked to do that in a video, and I don't even want to put the video together because there's too much writing on it. Like, what if I say something and then
It's
somebody's gonna
tough.
argue against me, and then I'm gonna agree with the person's argument too? It's like, anyway. And then,
Yeah.
well, it's true, right? Because like you'll be like, what? But what about this
Right.
player? He's amazing. I'm like, dude, you're totally right. Like, but it's a top 5. I'm screwed. So yeah,
Right.
the other question I have here is the most underrated roster of all time. That might be a tough one
Wow.
too. Of all
Most
time.
underrated roster. God. Man.
What's up? Maybe we can go
don't even-
recently, maybe something in the last few.
Yeah, recent. I think that's.
Halo 5
Yeah,
or
I think
Halo
that's
3.
fair. Man, I would have to pick the Elevate team from the first Worlds event. No, I forget which event they were at. It was Call Mentality, Penguin, Rain, and Swiftkill. That was
Back
probably
in-
one of the
in what,
most.
2016.
I think it was 16.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to
2016.
say they ended up getting third. But on paper, that was one of the most underrated teams to ever assemble and place that well on the one of the biggest stages ever. Just compositional, wise, that team, you just look at it, it's like, man, who knows? Like I don't see them placing top 3, but it's like they did it. And now that I'm talking about it, it made sense because, I've coached under, guys like Rain and Penguin, especially Penguin, he's got some great values when it comes to approaching the game and his mindset and, his conceptual mindset when it comes to playing any game type. He's just an awesome player. So, you factor in all that and their great communication as players. It's just, it ties in and it makes sense. But I would say that's one of the most underrated teams of all time.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's interesting to go back to the very beginning of Halo 5 and see some of the roster compositions, and you'll see some of the best players in the world in some rosters with a bunch of unknown players, and they just somehow made their way through those rosters to the top of the game by like the next 3 years time. So
Yeah.
pretty unbelievable. That was a good choice right there. I wouldn't have come up with that one. But overall, I think that really covers everything I wanted to chat about today, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have where can we find you on social media? Any kind of shout outs or anything?
Yeah, so social media on Twitter, the handle's right there. On the graphic, at Hoaxer TV. Don't forget the TV at the end. Maybe I can get the original Hoaxer. It's definitely there for grabs. We'll see about it. But yeah, at Hoaxer TV is on Twitter. Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at mostly. I have, what? I got a new PC. I've got all the equipment. I just haven't set it up, but I've been streaming like very sporadically, but I definitely want to if I can find the time to, get into it cuz I still play Halo 3. I'm obviously playing you'll catch me in solo queue, every now and then. So I definitely want to stream, and if I do, Twitch name, Hoaxer, just straight up Hoaxer. HOAXER.
Got that one.
Yeah, that one's easy. So
Yeah.
we'll see about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. Always a pleasure to chat Halo with you. And then good luck with Denial. You got so much to look forward to. Excited to see that.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I wanted to give a few shout outs.
Do that.
As far as on the Denial Esports end, I want to give a shout out to to Zach. He's the owner of Denial Esports. I've been working with him for a long time. I know he gets a lot of flack, and it's unfortunate, the things that happen, but he is an awesome guy, and it's been a pleasure working with him. Patrick, our CEO, we're blessed to have him on board with us, and all of our guys and gals under Denial Esports. It's an awesome time for us. So, and shout out to my family, my brother. I'm pretty sure he's going to watch this eventually. I'm gassing him up a little bit. And all my family, friends, and whatnots. And I appreciate everybody who supports me out there wherever you are. So shout out to everyone, and shout out to you, Alex, for having me on board on the show.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Awesome shout out. All right, guys, and that closes our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do have to make sure I show our HCS Weekly merch. Nick, if you happen to have it, I forgot to tell you about it, but throw it up. There you go. There's the HCS Weekly merch, guys. Remember, anything that you purchase here not only supports the show, but supports me as well, and I would absolutely love that. And that wraps up our show for today. Hoaxer on the show today, an awesome interview with him. Remember, the VODs will be going up live on YouTube very soon, guys. You can watch the full thing on YouTube. Remember to like, comment, hit that sub button on UGC's YouTube channel. And of course, you can listen to the audio as well. We have podcast versions of these episodes, both through Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Just go to hcsweekly.com and you can experience the audio versions on the go, which is a great thing to do as well. So thank you so much, guys, for enjoying the show. Once again, we'll be back on Tuesday, so less than a week's time. Got some awesome guests as usual. I'll see you then.